Welcome to the Liz Truss Show. I'm delighted to be joined by Eva Vlaardingerbroek. And unfortunately, she's unable to join me in the studio in London because she has been banned from Britain. Eva, just tell us a bit about how you found out that you've been banned.
Hi, Liz. Thank you so much for having me on your show today. Well, I honestly, I found out just randomly. I was checking my email unsuspectingly, and I saw that I had an email from the UK government saying that a change had been made to my travel authorization. And I thought, what change has been made? Why right now? Why am I receiving this email? And I opened it and I saw this very simple email, very simple outlay with just a couple of sentences saying that I am no longer allowed to travel to the UK with an ETA, so the electronic travel authorization that Europeans need now to go to the UK after Brexit. Because they deemed me, and I quote, not conducive to the public good. And so there was an immediate revocation of that travel authorization, and it also mentioned that I have no way to appeal the decision. So I was pretty dumbfounded by it. Because I wasn't planning on going to the UK anytime soon. I didn't book flight tickets. There are no imminent, plans for me to go there. And so I thought to myself, why did this happen right now? Why did they revoke it? And then I realized that just a few days earlier, I had criticized Keir Starmer on X. And so it was very difficult not to connect the dots there, let's say.
But do you know who made the decision? Was it officials in the Home Office? Was it the Home Secretary? Where do you think this came from?
Well, we actually tried getting that information, and I have just been refused everywhere, basically. We even went to the British Embassy here in Rome. My husband's a lawyer, and they wouldn't give him any answers either. I do know, because the Telegraph and the Independent made some calls, that the Home Office confirmed that they banned me, but who called that exact shot, I couldn't tell you.
It is extraordinary. And one of the problems with Britain and this new censorship regime we have is very unclear often where the decisions are coming from and who's making them. And we have bureaucrats who are unaccountable, who can't be sacked, who have a particular ideological agenda, because we've seen lots of people allowed into Britain, Islamist hate preachers allowed into Britain, all kinds of figures on the left allowed into Britain, but there seems to be a coordinated effort to not just prevent free speech in our own country, and we've had our own citizens jailed for posting on X, but also to stop anybody with a contrary view entering our nation. It is absolutely shocking. You've been to Britain a number of times, Eva. Have you seen things get worse here?
Absolutely. I mean, last time that I was in England, I went in September to speak at the Tommy Robinson Unite the Kingdom rally. And I saw with my own eyes on the streets of London the mind the grab comments, those lines that they put on the street now, because people have to be warned that their phone might get stolen out of their hands. Even just before that, a couple of years earlier, going around London by myself when it was dark gave me an extremely eerie feeling. I've seen it get worse over the years, absolutely. And of course, I've been talking about the repression of freedom of speech and the attack on dissidents. So the fact that, this decision now has been made against me personally only confirms everything that you in the UK have been saying, that I have been saying, and that many people, as a matter of fact, have been saying about the path that the country is on. So I wonder, really, Liz, are they stupid that they made a decision like this? Do they underestimate, the power and the reach that someone like me has online? Do they overestimate themselves? Because the optics of this are just terrible for them, right? It just confirms everything that everyone has been saying. Two-tier care, two-tier justice, the fact that all the immigrants are allowed in without any questions asked, without papers, and they are given the free hotels, they are given everything for free. And I am just a tourist, right? I'm not coming to the UK to ask for citizenship. I come 2-3 times a year tops for a couple of days to either see my friends, because I have many friends in the UK, or to attend a rally, which last time I checked in supposedly free countries is not a crime, because I'm not suspected of any crime, might I add. This was a decision made entirely because of political reasons. There's no other reason for this decision to have been made right now. So, I mean, I honestly don't get it. It has backfired massively, also thanks to you, by the way, and I wanted to thank you personally for reposting my video on X with the comments that you made, because it helped a lot to have a former Prime Minister of the United Kingdom speak out about the injustices now being done on behalf or by, we don't quite know, the current Prime Minister. So thank you for that.
I think, you asked a question, thank you, Eva. You asked a question about, are they stupid? I think they are incredibly arrogant and confident that they are going to get their own way, that they're going to succeed in suppressing debate in Britain. And of course, your case has been all over X. You've received support from the State Department in the United States as well. But many regular Britons, they're not on X, they're not glued to social media the whole time. They're not necessarily aware of what is happening, and people are incredibly frustrated. But part of the problem we've got is we've got a very powerful mainstream media that doesn't want to talk about what's actually happening, whether it's covering up the grooming gangs, whether it's downplaying the arrests that we've seen for free speech, or cases like yours. They don't really want to cover it. So yes, there are politically engaged people who know what's going on, but I believe the aim of, and I would describe it as the authorities overall, is not just the government. And what we have is we've got radicalized police. We just had a case last week where the chief constable of the West Midlands was found to be fabricating evidence at the behest of local Islamists.
Wow.
We had a captured civil service where transgender ideology, Islamist ideology has infiltrated into those institutions. So it is a big problem. And these people, they think they're winning. And they have, over the last 30 years in Britain, successfully captured more and more parts of the public sphere. And they've made it unacceptable to say these things. They're currently trying to introduce a law to stop people criticizing Islam. I mean, that is the latest gambit. So,
new blasphemy laws. Nice.
I hope they're underestimating us. I hope they're underestimating us and that we can win. But we've seen other countries go in that direction and become progressively more and more close. And the frightening thing is, it's looking a bit like Eastern Europe used to look.
Yes.
In terms of what people feel they are able to say.
Yes, yeah, exactly. Even the reason that they gave me in the email that I am so, at least they say, not conducive to the public good, that feels very Eastern Germany to me. Because what does that mean, not being conducive to the public good? Who decides that? That is, of course, an incredibly subjective idea in and of itself. It also apparently didn't warrant any other motivation. They just told me. Right. And I agree with you that the very dangerous part about this is as well, yes, now there's been massive outreach because they targeted me, and I thankfully have a platform through which I can get help from other people speaking out about this. But still, I have no means open to me to really appeal to this. That's what they wrote. So it's just a decision that they unilaterally make. And then you stand with your back against the wall unless you're willing to go to court, which is going to take a lot of time, a lot of money, a lot of effort. And I think that is one of the things that I've seen in the UK that has upset me and so many people so much, is that usually, indeed, they seem to target people who don't have the means to fight back. And so a lot of the free speech cases that I have at least seen coming from your country have been ordinary civilians who've been targeted with these hate speech crimes, who end up actually confessing to their crimes, presumably, I suppose, because they don't have a good lawyer, or they can't afford it, or because they are intimidated, which is just heartbreaking to see. I still think about this case all the time of this man called David Spring, the 61-year-old train driver who got targeted because he said, "Who the F is Allah?" at one of these one of these protests. And I wonder, that's a man who's worked his entire life tirelessly to serve your country, and he gets targeted like that, thrown in jail for 18 months. I honestly don't even know if he's still in jail. But that man, I think about him sometimes, about his family, and he's just one of the so many cases, of victims who of this regime, because that is what it is. And I think we should call it a regime. If you are not allowed to criticize the establishment without running the risk of being thrown in jail or being banned from traveling, then that is an authoritarian state. I mean, it's been confirmed officially.
I think people in Britain don't want to admit how bad it is and how bad it's got. And of course, people voted to leave the EU in 2016, partly to get away from this controlling bureaucracy that was frustrating what normal people in Britain wanted. But we seem to have ended up, in this case, possibly in an even worse position with our own Kafkaesque system in charge. What is the situation like in Italy and the Netherlands? Is it not as bad as it is in the UK regarding censorship or travel bans?
Well, I think we're not far removed from your situation, to be honest. I mean, we still have the European Union, which is very openly targeting dissidents as well. Maybe we are not being thrown in jail quite yet as much as the UK population is for hate crimes, but we are being prosecuted. I mean, my best friend has been prosecuted with offending a minority group. She's a presenter on Dutch television. I could list 3 politicians for you right now in the Netherlands who've been prosecuted and convicted of hate speech crimes. And maybe they don't directly go to jail, but they still have a criminal record. They still, are treated as criminals. They still are prosecuted and have to defend themselves in court. All of those things happen equally on our side of the pond. And then the European Union is targeting us more indirectly with the Digital Services Act, which is basically just a censorship law that wants to, I think they ultimately want to ban X. That is actually also exactly what I said when I criticized Keir Starmer, is that when he was saying, oh, we have to safeguard women's safety because Grok, the artificial intelligence on X, is putting women in bikinis, that is just a pretext to ban X because he's deadly afraid of people being able to speak out against him on that platform. And so that is something that we see happening in tandem all over the continent and in the UK. So, I mean, no, it's not necessarily any better here. I am married to an Italian. I live in Italy right now. Italy has a government that is, of course, I would say much better than either respective governments that we have. But still, the European Union is always there. They're always there. And now they officially have moved from censorship laws also to directly targeting citizens, which has not received much media attention at all. Just a month ago, they put out restrictive measures on individuals. And they say it's because of Russia, and that there are people here who benefit the Russian government by spreading misinformation or by committing information manipulation, as they say. But once again, that is something that the European Union does without the intervention of a court. They don't have court orders. They don't have a legal basis for it. They just create it. They do it by council decision, and then they present the people who they want to target with their decision, exactly in the way that I've just been presented with that decision. And people just stand with their backs against the walls. I mean, the people that I'm mentioning now, their assets were frozen by the European Union. They have been banned from traveling outside of the country that they find themselves in Europe. So they're in an open-air prison. An open-air prison. So maybe that's the difference. We are in an open-air prison. You actually get sent to prison. Nice. Great. How the mighty have fallen.
It's pretty astonishing, isn't it, that we've got to this point and that the hope for Britain and the EU is Elon Musk's X. That we are relying on this external force to be able to talk about what is happening in our own countries, what is happening on the continent. How do you think the resistance to this is shaping up? Is there a realistic possibility that we are going to see a counter revolution in Europe, that the public are going to rebel against this increasingly censorious, centrally controlled, pro-mass migration, pro-net zero, which has done huge economic damage? We're all in a very poor economic position as a result of all these policies. Do you see a counter-revolution happening?
Yes, well, not just economic, of course, also cultural costs have been huge, arguably larger than that, because the economy you can fix, or at least, well, let's say you tried, Liz, you tried. And of course, we know what happened to you. So I'm not saying that it's an easy fix at all. And I salute you for trying, by the way. But that's something that we, in theory, can fix more easily than, let's say, the total replacement of our population, which is unfolding under our eyes. Like once that gets to the point where we become minorities in our own countries, it's going to be quite difficult to reverse. But to answer your question about whether I see real resistance to it, to be honest with you, the last time that I saw it in a way where I felt truly hopeful was in September at that Unite the Kingdom rally in the UK. I mean, the BBC constantly lies and all the other mainstream media constantly lies about how many people were there, but I saw it with my own two eyes. We were talking millions of people out on the street in London, and they were righteously angry. And so, ironically, even though your situation is maybe even a bit worse than ours, I would also say that for true resistance and true hope, we have to look at England. We have to look at England, and we have to look at here on the continent at Germany. And in Germany, I foresee that more so in an electoral way with the AfD. But when we're talking true popular resistance, it's the UK. It's you guys. And I think that is a very interesting thing also about, the Brits, is that at least I have always seen you, and I think you are historically known to be people who are extremely reasonable, keep calm, carry on. You don't get particularly upset quickly, whereas there are other people in Europe who are much more heated, let's say, in character, right? Also in national character. I live in Italy, I think I can know. But I always feel like once you upset the Brits too far, and once they really wake up, it's like a lion that you cannot put back into its cage. And I really hope that.
Let's hope so, because we need to see the dominoes start to fall. And I think change in Britain is in some way easier because we're not part of the EU. So should there be a government elected that is prepared to do what it takes, there can be real change in our country. You've been supported by the State Department in your quest to hold the British government to account. Mm-hmm. How are you going to be working with them? What advice are they giving you? Do you think you would ever end up moving to the United States because the situation is so bad here in Europe?
Well, I would love to be in more direct contact with the State Department about this. I've seen their public support, but I'm not currently working with them on a way of challenging this right now. I would love to be, so if they're listening, please reach out. But I don't know. I mean, I think that I will try to fight this any way that I possibly can. I know that Rupert Lowe has asked the Home Office for answers. Here in Italy, Salvini has made comments. You have made comments. In my home country, official questions have been asked to the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. So I really would like to see what these officials all come back with, because they have the obligation to answer those questions. So it might still take a couple of weeks before we receive them, but with that information, I think I can take some extra steps, and I will definitely do that because I'm not giving up without a fight. That also brings me to your question about whether I would see myself moving to America. Unless they actually, get close to throwing me in jail, I will not leave, because this is my home. And the whole point of everything that I do and everything that I say is that I want the land of my ancestors to be the land of my children. So I cannot go. You know, I love our continent. I love Europe, and it's worth fighting for. And if we flee, who else is going to do it? So, I mean, I understand that I'm no use to anyone in jail, but let's hope that we're able to topple this regime before that actually ends up happening.
Well, let's indeed hope so. Thank you so much, Eva. It's been great to speak to you. And all the best for your efforts to get into Britain. And I hope that when you get here, you don't get arrested, because that does happen to some people as well.
I'll keep you very much posted. Like I said, I love the British people, so I don't want to go without ever seeing you again on your own soil. That is for sure.
It's time to unite the kingdom.